Hi, if you want to see a terrible week of trading, you found the right place. I'm the only person that managed to get a losing week in a all down environment. No one obviously knows that we were going to dump for the whole week down without basically any retraces. Just didn't trust myself on a lot of intuition that I had. I hate those trending moves. I'm happy that they only happen about 30% of the time. When it's like this, I just have to suffer a little bit or try to improve my trading or just try to sit out. I remember during the bull run when we had those parabolic moves up, I used to hate it. This is Tones and Done. Welcome to my weekly review. All right, let's go back through this week. We had this range over the end of last week and the weekend, and from Monday here, just straight down for Bitcoin. I barely see any retraces, which was pretty mad. Ethereum took a bit more time to break the low of previous week, and then it was same behavior, just straight down. This was a nice M. This is my working day, so working in Asia, and then was trading UK. 3 good stabs there that got rejected, and if I was expecting a bigger move down, I could have definitely entered on the higher time frame here in UK and have my stop all the way here, which when you look at it here would have been a really good trade. But you never know that you're gonna keep dumping like this for so long. And I really want to have open my trades within the session, hopefully within 3 hours. This is my first trade on Ethereum on Monday in UK. Bitcoin here was clearly showing rejection and continuation down. And on Ethereum, I had 2 retests of Asia lows. And because I was expecting that move lower, I wanted price to retest that supply if it could. But here on the 15-minute, just having rejected it twice and Bitcoin being clearly bearish, I did enter this trade targeting the low of previous week, which was a good trade. Price started ranging. I'm down on 5-minute now since my entry. One of the realizations I had from the losses I had over the last few months is I've been over managing my trades, especially when I don't do what I want straight away. And I had clearly had this feeling here on Ethereum because we were ranging and we were not breaking down like I wanted to straight away. Respected my 2-hour mark, which is I need to not do anything for the first 2 hours unless there is something very obvious. And then the 2-hour mark, reassess, shorten my stop loss or go back to break even or even just cut my trade if price hasn't done what I want. What let me stay in this trade is the price was rejecting that 50 EMA the whole time. I had an alert on this line just to see if like price was finally not doing what I want and break that 50 EMA. And I had just an alert on my TP here. And what happened is I go for dinner and I get an alert and I'm like, okay, probably trade played out. And the alert was here. Price missed my TP by 36 cents. It was really annoying. If I would have seen that, I should have had actually an alert on this level and then probably would have gone break even quite quick. My 2-hour mark rang and I saw that first candle rejection and I just lowered my stop here. Get stopped out. Got quite pissed off because in that UK extension, Bitcoin is just clearly bearish as well and still holding down. I'm not going to re-enter right now before US because it was already bedtime and entering off this liquidity sweep that they did and still targeting that low. Woke up being pissed off of not listening to my intuitions. I just felt at this time I was under too many emotions and it wasn't good to re-entering a trade straight after. On Tuesday, I have those 3 stabs here on Ethereum. This was a high level, was daily open, I think weekly open, maybe even monthly open. Bitcoin was still very bearish, rejecting Asia lows. Ethereum rejecting 50% of Asia after those 3 stabs and failed attempts to break higher. I failed to enter this trade because there's no clean setup here outside of my intuition. And yeah, it is like a triple top with like a retest of the EMAs. I just got scared the whole time about US doing the wrong move. And like I told you, I traded out of fear. I woke up with what could have been a beautiful trade targeting this liquidity here. So a nice 4 trade here that would have played overnight. Exact same thing on Wednesday. So Asia working and clear rejection here in UK. We had retest of that 200 EMA on the 5-minute, so 50 EMA on the 15-minute, pretty much. They're not exactly at the same place, but pretty much. and just sign of a continuation down. I went to bed around here and we were retesting from these Asia highs from the underside. My intuition was like, you're gonna keep bleeding the whole week, and there's definitely a trade here. Same to the next liquidity level was a 3-hour trade. Did not take in before going to bed because it's something I had to do, so missed out on this as well. Thursday was my first day off where I could trade Asia. Nice big rejection of taking that liquidity on Bitcoin. And we did actually grab the February lows on Ethereum, which was a pretty good sign. So divergence between Ethereum and Bitcoin. I was expecting maybe a W on the 15-minute here. So retesting the 50 EMA on the 15-minute, get a W formation. For me, that trade back up to that supply was a really good trade. The one I did look for on the lower time frame was this breaker, so the last up candle before drastic move down with volume grabbing the liquidity. Price here was hovering. I wanted that stab. I wanted that hammer tapping into that breaker. And I waited. Price was hovering here. And I really thought we were going to come back and fake people sort of down and reclaim this low of previous day as well. Hesitated about entering this trade around this zone without getting my confirmation, but I really wanted my more confirmation. Did not enter this trade. This trade showed down to the supply exactly as I had it planned, and that got me a bit pissed off. Following on with that first loss and this one just not getting my entry. It is trading, you're not always gonna get your confirmation. Just a really good trade that played out pretty quick. Yeah, within an hour and a half, and then that's when I went long really early and that UK session. This was a breaker on the 15 or the 1 hour, and then he had that demand at the same time. So when those two areas are overlapping, this could be a good entry for a rejection. We grab this liquidity, rejection here. And I entered my long because we had a higher supply here to retest on Bitcoin, and I was targeting on Ethereum those high of previous day, or at least tapping the highs of Asia as a retrace before continuation down. I did put my stop all the way down below that breaker, which was for me the line in the sand for my trade being invalidated. Price kept bleeding down, stopped me out, and then we just ranged and ended up going lower. One thing I did improve this week, I went back through a lot of my trading over the last 6 months and see what I was doing wrong. And there's a lot of times where I've cut a trade too early because it wasn't behaving the way I wanted. And those trades ended up playing out, and that costed me a lot of wins. So I'm happy that on this trade, when we rejected here, this was a low that could get swept as well, retest that breaker finally and go up as a W formation. So I'm happy that I stayed in that trade the whole way down and held it without doing anything, without touching it all the way to stop loss. This is progress from the mistakes I've made over the last 6 months. So happy about that. And this was my plan on Friday. We're still holding those trap traders here, sweeping some lows, holding some key levels, on Ethereum, holding this demand, taking some liquidity. And as we climb up into the Asian Open, my plan into the Asian Open was, as this line was showing, was retest some supply, retest some 1 hour 50 EMA, have this pattern that is usually get a sharp move down, a range, and then you get a failure to break, and you keep going down, sort of a reset. That's what I was expecting on Friday, especially before NFP, induce people going long and have them trapped either short or long going into the news event. Price was just too bearish and just kept dripping and dripping. It was just straight down the whole time, and you could have just traded the EMAs. This is hindsight, but no liquidity grab whatsoever. At the start of Asia, I get this W here, and I remember seeing this week, and what I should have done is wait for the breakout, wait for this week to get recovered and price to retest before going higher. I anticipated that move a bit too much. On the 5-minute time frame, this W looked good, but everything we've been created actually was, you had these 3 candles, these 3 candles with another rejection, and when I got stopped out, I should have flipped bearish, but I did not. And I'm really, sometimes I do, but there's a lot of times where getting out of a trade and back into another one, I always feel like I'm subject to emotions and I don't want to get whipsawed up and down. At this point, my thesis to go higher was still like plausible. Could have flipped bearish and enter that trade short. And from here, Friday UK before NFP, nothing was crazy. You had a bit of a retrace of Asia. This retest in US, but didn't want to trade US NFP and did not trade it on Friday. On Saturday, I looked at my phone and I had still those rejections of the EMAs. It looked really good, and this time too late in the game. I usually don't trade weekends, but it was really probable that we could keep dropping. So I didn't enter this trade, didn't worry about price too much, didn't worry about the 2 hour mark, trusted the process. Improvement on this, executing out of intuition, even if it was wrong timing, and all the way at the bottom of that trend, especially after Bitcoin did as well sweep the February lows, a reversal point from here when Ethereum already did it. And then we just started ranging. And from that point, I put my stop at break even. And this is what price I've been doing so far. So poor week for me, 3-hour loss, counter trend trading, not listening to intuition. I got lucky on one thing though that I want to point out. Breakout at some point had an issue with a few accounts that got breached for the daily max loss. I was one of them. I received an email during the night that my account was breached. So I went back to my account and checked on it, and I actually had more equity in my account. Went to their Discord, and they did stated that every person that got impacted by this got a 1% of their account refund. So I actually got 1%, which is 2 grand on my account back in. Lucky there. Thanks for Breakout for taking care of issues like this and being so nice with people. Thanks for watching. This was Tones, and see you next week.